WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisCI to 44321.
Representative Dave Murphy of Greenville is the Republican incumbent candidate for the 56th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Representative Dave Murphy, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for participating in our candidate interview this year. What is your campaign's key message? Why are you running for re-election?
Well, our state has run a surplus over the last number of years, and I guess my number one message to the people of Wisconsin and the people of the 56th Assembly District is I will be very vigilant in how we spend that money. And my first option would be to send as much as we can back to the voters.
What's an example of a bill that's a priority for you to introduce in this next term?
Well, interesting question, because probably to me right now the most important piece of legislation I have out there is a constitutional amendment that has already passed one session of the legislature. Of course, constitutional amendments have to pass 2 consecutive legislatures, and so coming back in January, it would be my hope to get that.
And what is that
amendment
about?
That constitutional amendment would end race discrimination in Wisconsin. It would end affirmative action. It would turn our state into a merit-based situation, whether that be in admissions to colleges, whether it be contracting for government projects, and it would relate to government all the way from Madison to our local school boards.
You mentioned the budget surplus projected to be over $3 billion in this coming biennial budget. You just said that tax reform is a big priority. What does that look like for you, that tax
reform?
Well,
we've put a couple of tax cut bills on Governor Evers' desk, and he has vetoed them. One I particularly liked was the fact that we were going to eliminate a lot of the income tax on senior citizens. We're trying to hold senior citizens in our state, and they have a lot of options to them. And of course, our weather isn't the best. So they look at those options. States like Florida, states like Texas, states like Tennessee do not have an income tax. And so we would like to move our seniors into that type of a situation. And, if you think about it, our seniors add so much to our state. When you go to vote, who's working at the polls? A lot of it is our senior citizens.
So you think a tax cut for them is going to help them to
correct.
I
mean, if you go to hospitals, who are the volunteers in the hospitals?
In your discussion about use of the surplus, you're talking about taxes. Is there any spending priority for use of that surplus, any area of the budget?
Well, I have to tell you, our $99 billion budget doesn't look to me like it needs lots of enhancements.
So you turn it all back in tax?
I would put just about all of it back to the taxpayers. Okay. We get together in our Republican caucus and talk about different things that might benefit the citizens of Wisconsin, might help the state, And I'm certainly willing to talk about those things. But I think the most important thing that we can do with that money is turn it back. I've looked at lots of other states, and there's been states that have had large surpluses. And they come in and they spend and spend and spend. Suddenly, the surplus is gone. And in some cases, like in California, all of a sudden they're looking at deficits. And I think the people of Wisconsin do not want to get back into a situation where they're looking at a state government that's running
What about
deficits.
K-12 education? That's a priority for a lot of Wisconsinites. Do you have any campaign priorities for K-12 education?
Yeah, I want our kids to be able to read. And I think one of the things that bothers me most is the fact that our kids can't read as well as they should. There are schools in Milwaukee where none of the kids are proficient at reading.
Does that mean more accountability, or does it mean more investment? Does it mean more targeted incentives or regulation?
Well, it's interesting to me because when I have looked at the spending in different school districts and then the rate of proficiency in reading and math, they don't really correlate very much. And so throwing money at the problem doesn't seem to be what's fixing it. In the last session of the legislature, the Republicans put out a bill to make sure that our schools are using the science of reading and changing how we teach reading, because Wisconsin was always one of the best states in the union in reading, and we've fallen behind, and we need to catch up again.
Okay. What about higher education? That's an issue you've certainly worked on. What does the future look like for the state's 4-year, 2-year colleges, technical colleges? What should the legislature focus on now?
Well, high school graduating classes are getting smaller. Every year, they're getting smaller. This leaves a smaller pool for the universities as far as new students are concerned. And this has caused a lot of the 2-year campuses to become so small. In one case, with Richland Center only having 55 students, that you just can't keep them open anymore. So there will be some closures, and I don't know what else you might do.
Do you think there needs to be more funding in the universities of Wisconsin system?
Well, funding doesn't mean we're going to have more kids. For instance, at Richland Center, they had said, well, we need $4 million to be able to continue. Well, with 55 students, that was almost $80,000 per student. We talk a lot about 2-year campuses as being an inexpensive way for students to get a college degree, but it can't be an inexpensive way where the taxpayers are paying such a huge amount for
Sounds
that
like you're talking about right sizing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. That's a nice way to put it. It is right siding. I mean, you have to do that. If your customer base is shrinking, then you have to do something to put yourself in the right situation.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce development challenge, and how would you propose addressing it?
There are lots of them. And let me tell you the difference in my time in the legislature. When I came into the legislature 12 years ago, we ran on a agenda. It was jobs, jobs, jobs. We wanted to create more jobs. Well, now all of a sudden, 12 years later, we can't fill the jobs anymore. You know, in those early days, I would have maybe the Nurses Association come into my office and say, oh my gosh, Dave, we are so short on nurses in this state. There are so many positions to fill. We need to do more to make more programs for nurses. Well, that was fine then. You could try to incentivize people going into nursing. But today, we have shortages everywhere. And so if you're incentivizing people in one way, in one area, you're just taking away from somewhere else.
So what's the solution?
So I think I think the solution is a good immigration program. An immigration program that makes sure that people are documented, that we know where they are. And I think having guest workers come in, that's fine.
We need some help from the federal government with that?
Yes, but I think the people of Wisconsin won't get behind that if they don't believe the federal government is controlling the border.
Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. These investments also provide an opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
Well, I think first of all, most companies working here in Wisconsin are going to hire local workers if they can. But when you start putting regulations on that, we need to make sure the jobs are filled and that we have enough people to build that electrical infrastructure, rather than worrying about exactly who that is. It's very
so
tough,
no hiring requirement.
I would not support that.
Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry. Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books. This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance and puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects. Plus, misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of this, and what should be done about it?
Well, I would be shocked if anybody was working at less than minimum wage. I don't think that happens. There are just too many jobs available well above minimum wage. I don't know why anyone would do that. I do think that we need regulation on making sure that people aren't skirting the law and trying to get out of paying their fair share on taxes. And I certainly would be against that.
Affordable rental housing is an issue in Wisconsin. Some have proposed government-imposed rent control to maintain affordability, while others argue keeping rent artificially low will decrease rental supply, resulting in increased prices. What's your sense of housing as an issue, and which best addresses rental housing affordability, rent control or building more rentals?
Well, I think rent control is one of the all-time worst ideas ever. I would never support that. I think that we have a situation in this country where we have driven the price of housing so high. We need a new administration in Washington that's going to work on this inflation.
Can the state legislature help
the inflation is terrible.
With building rental housing, incentives for building?
Yeah, we've looked at some of those things, and one of the things that we had talked about, and one idea I really like for housing, is turning some of the commercial property in the state into either elderly housing or for new people, for young people, young person type housing. I think that's a good idea. I think we can incentivize that kind of thing. One of the things that's interesting in our state is while housing is going up in value dramatically, commercial real estate is dropping. And so they're going in opposite directions, and turning some of that property into housing, I think, would be a good idea.
Moving on to healthcare.
Sure.
Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
Medicaid reimbursements in a lot of cases are too low. And you had asked me earlier what are some of the things that I might spend some money on. Trying to improve Medicaid reimbursements can really help. We increased Medicaid reimbursements for dentists a couple of years ago, and it's really filled a need for people that need dental care, and there's just a lot more people getting care because we did that. I think we need to do that with the medical. We need to look at it and just make sure that we're being smart, spending the money properly.
What about mental health care? It's a growing concern for state and county budgets. What are you hearing on this issue, and is there a way to address it?
Well, one of the things that bothers me is we look a lot at treatment, and one of the questions I have is that, when I was younger, it didn't seem like we had this many mental health problems, and I'd like to get to the root source of that. Why do we have so many people that are feeling this way? And
you think
I think there's a sense
focusing on
of
kids?
Well, it used to be that people like myself, men over 60, were more likely to commit suicide than anyone else. But now it's become young women, teenage girls. I don't know if they're quite as high as what the men over 60 are right now, but they are definitely, that's gone up dramatically with that.
So you're thinking about research, or are you thinking about putting money or professionals in a particular area?
Well, I'm on the board for a group at the La Follette School called the Family Impact Seminars. And that's a subject I would like to see them study. I'm going to recommend that to them this year, that we take a little deeper dive into that.
What about abortion policy?
Sure.
How should Wisconsin move forward on abortion?
So one of the things I'm most proud of is back in 2017, I was named the Pro-Life Wisconsin Legislator of the Year, and that was for the Choose Life license plates that I got passed through the legislature, and that has meant hundreds of thousands of dollars to family resource centers in Wisconsin, and it's helped a lot of young women that were having issues, having trouble, and being able to navigate keeping their babies. I did vote for the bill this last year that would have sent a referendum to the people of Wisconsin.
Should there be a certain week limit for abortion in Wisconsin?
I personally don't think that abortion should be legal. But as a representative, you have to represent the people. And by allowing a referendum on that, I was really hoping to have a chance to see what the people of Wisconsin were telling us about their feelings on it. Governor Evers vetoed that. I thought that was a really good idea.
What about transportation? What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important are that these needs are addressed, and for the state to keep on schedule with the reconstruction of aging interstates and significant corridors of commerce? Sure.
So one of the things that I'm very proud of is the fact that I was able to get the I-41 project between Green Bay and Appleton in the works, and that's they're working on it right now. The other project I worked very hard on was the Highway 15 bypass, and that's going to be done soon. So we've had two really good projects for transportation. Those things really mean a lot to the people in northeastern Wisconsin. Highway 15 is going to be so important to the city of New London. It's going to bring them so much closer and make the time coming to Appleton so much faster. It's going to draw them into the greater Fox cities, and I think that's going to be great for New London.
The environment.
Yeah.
PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites. Do you see this as an important issue, and how should it be addressed?
Definitely an important issue. One of the concerns I have about it is we don't know that much about it, about the PFAS itself. I remember asking a question of someone at the DNR. I said, well, what does PFAS poisoning look like? Well, she said, we don't really know. And so they don't have a good feel for what PFAS is really doing. We know it's out there, and we know it's, because it's out there forever, that scares people. But on the other hand, I don't know exactly what it is doing. And this is where...
Should it be regulated in a different way?
I think, we are regulating to make sure that we are putting no more new PFAS into the environment. That's the first place you start, is you got to stop the problem from getting any worse. And then I think we need, and again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm looking for the science community to be able to tell us what we need to do and how we can solve that
More
problem.
information.
Yeah.
Last two questions for
Sure.
you today. How would you describe the leading differences between you and your opponent?
I don't know my opponent that well. I don't know what her agenda is. If her agenda is similar to other Democrats that are running, they think that we should spend more money on most everything. They think government knows how to spend money better than the people know how to spend their own money. And I just strongly disagree with that.
Final question.
Sure.
If you're reelected and you have a magic wand you can use in the state capitol on one issue, have it resolved in a way that brings people together, what would that issue be?
That brings people together. A vote on abortion, I think would have been good.
On the referendum?
Yeah, it would have told us where the people are. I would really like to do that. If I have a magic wand and could pass any bill I want, I would love to see Wisconsin be a non-income tax state. The states in the union that don't have an income tax, they all seem to be really thriving, and I think that would be very helpful.
All right. Thank you, Representative Dave Murphy of Greenville, Republican incumbent candidate in the 56th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Representative Murphy, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.